And we are live. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the 14th installment of the Finish Line Formula podcast, where we give you the ingredients to not only get you to the start line, but also to the finish. Why is Will laughing? I don't know. But the reason we do that is because we all love finishing. We're here with the NOOSA Marathon boys, -1. Let's get into it. Week 14, done. Wrong. Week 13,
Partially
done. Cameron is a no-show. He's off in America, living the high life. Podcast availability as per usual. YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast. My name's Nick. Welcome to the show.
My name's William.
And my name is Sean.
Fantastic. We've got 2 topics, 2 in 1. 2 for the price of 1. We know how you love a deal. So we wanted to talk about two topics that both make sense. And I'm going to tell you what those 2 topics are now. The first topic of discussion for today is going to be why you should be doing a race, 10K, half marathon in the middle of your marathon block in the lead up to the race. And the second half of that is discussing half marathon race strategies, because my preference and my recommendation to you is that you do a half marathon as that pre-race during your block. Anyway, we'll get into that a bit down the line. But before we do, we're going to give a weekly training recap. I'm going to start. I was going to let the others start, but I like talking today, so I'm going to start. Coming off the back of last week, we had 29 Ks long run on Sunday. Monday was another rest day. Tuesday was a session with 6 by 1 kilometer reps. Wednesday was a 24K MLR. Thursday was a double. So we had 10 Ks in the morning, 6 Ks in the evening. Thursday was 19 kilometer MLR. This morning, it's Saturday today, we had 8 kilometers, and tomorrow we have 29 Ks again, but this time with 23 kilometers at marathon pace. So that's week 14, week 13. Week 13, that is week 13 in a nutshell. I'll let whoever's doing the overview of the NOOSA Marathon Boys week, I'll let them go into it now, and then we'll have a quick discussion on the training week.
For anyone that's watching, we had to save some time today. So if you're wondering why Nick and Will's setting looks a bit different, they're jumping right onto the casting couch after this. For our week, Monday.
Got to make money somehow.
Monday rest day is per usual. Tuesday, 13 Ks aerobic. Wednesday, we had 14 Ks with 5 by 1K at 5 kilometer pace. Thursday, rest. Friday, 19 kilometers long. Today, 8 Ks, and tomorrow, 29 Ks with 23 at marathon pace. And I don't know if we're getting into it yet, but after the last, 6-ish weeks, the legs are definitely heavy and tired for me. Not sure about you guys, but yesterday's 19 Ks was brutal.
Yeah, I like even after having a physio session on whatever day we were meant to do the 14K with the 1x5s or whatever, or the 5x1s, I took time off, and when I got back into running yesterday, did the 19, it literally felt like my first week running again. My legs were so damn heavy. It was so difficult to get through, but got it done. Still need to do the 8 today and the whatever it is tomorrow, the 27 or 29 or whatever. But yeah, my legs are struggling at the moment, so I'm very much so looking forward to a taper.
Is your physio called Johnny, by the way?
That's another one I'm gonna have to mute out.
Johnny Sims.
No, his name's Jason. He's actually, so it's the same physio that Ed Goddard goes to, or same physio place, but then he just sees whichever physio is available. Yeah, the guy I see is
Johnny.
Oh my god. Anyway, it's Jason. Jason's who I see.
It's weird though, because Will was telling me on the phone when he gets his physio work, he can feel his physio's 2 hands on his hips while the dry needling's happening.
Oh fuck!
He's just gone and choked. He's just got to die.
Oh fuck!
He got a bit excited hearing about Johnny grabbing my thighs.
That was coffee as well.
Oh crap! Well,
I wasn't gonna laugh.
according to Sean's statement, that's not going to be the only stains on this couch by the end of today.
Yeah.
Okay, compose ourselves. Let's get back into it. Where were we? We're talking about double
We're up
hands on
to-
the hips and feeling needles in the back pocket sort of thing.
Yeah, we're up to topic of the week.
No, we're going to have a discussion on the week because I think that's what
Oh,
we're
yeah.
talking about. What we're talking about is needling. Anyway.
No, we're just saying that we're all feeling the fatigue. The shorter runs are feeling rough.
Well, I'm not sure if you've noticed it, but how do I explain it? It's taken me a lot longer. Oh, it might be peaking. It's taken me a lot longer to, how do I put this, to warm up in my runs. So let's say I've got a 8-kilometer recovery run. By the time it's over, I'm not warmed up yet. My legs still feel slow. Whereas those longer runs, you kind of, by the back end of it, you can kind of pick it up. Your legs have kind of warmed up and so on. And that would just be the like the residual fatigue.
Yeah, on Friday's long run, I think it took me like 10 Ks for my legs to not feel. Well, it took like 10 Ks. When I was running, it felt like every step my bones were hurting. Not like super bad, but just like it felt like each step was just heavy on the bones. Took like 10 Ks to feel warmed up. Got 2 Ks where I felt good, and then the back 7 were just brutal.
Oh yeah. So yeah, the volume at the moment it's reaching that point where if you stay at it for another, if I continued with this volume for another 4, 5, 6 weeks, an injury would be inevitable. What I mean by that is overtraining is continued levels of training beyond where the body can cope, which is why you want to be training on that edge. You kind of want to tip over a little bit, come down, tip over. So you're always pushing that edge in the marathon block to
Love edging, by the way.
garning, so you obtain the biggest performance benefit while still riding that wave.
Whilst riding that edge, as I said a few episodes ago.
So in that regard, we've got, because I missed 5Ks of the total volume this week, just with timing. But we've got, for at least Will, Cam, and I, we've got another 78K week, 83, and then it goes 70, 59, then race week. Are you saying you're thinking about adjusting our volume, or we're like right at the sweet spot in terms of?
No, I'm saying
we're going to be.
What I'm saying is you want to be where you are because it's tapering anyway.
Yeah.
Like if you were going to get injured,
gotcha.
let's say you get in, like you start feeling a niggle next week and you're feeling a bit injured, you just start the taper a bit earlier.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
We're past the point. Like, unfortunately, Cam probably got an injury right at where you don't want to, like
Yeah.
too far out that you can start the taper, but too far out that you can start the taper early, but also too deep into the block to make significant adjustments. Or so if we were earlier in the block, he probably could have had a couple of down weeks. But yeah, that's how life goes, and he's working with his physio with all that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think he pretty much missed the big, like 5-ish weeks of where I mean, at least for me personally, I'm not sure how you feel, Will. The last 5 weeks, it feels like the fitness has improved significantly more than the previous 20-ish weeks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what it was is it was, if you think of all the different areas, there's endurance, there's speed, think of it almost like a triangle. It's like I found that's where it was like kind of pushing the edges out on each of those areas. So you would have this like 80-kilometer distance for the week, but then you would have a speed session in the middle of there where you and I were doing like sub 4-minute Ks, for example's sake. And I found that is where I've had the most gains and probably the most, just to simplify it, the most gains, the entire training block. So in short, I fully agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like, well, I was going to say the last thing was, I mean, at least for me, going back to when we like, I don't remember how many weeks ago we all had the discussion where I was saying I'm not even sure if 3 hours 30 is on the cards, and now I'm thinking about pushing for 4:45 or even down to 4:30 pace for the marathon. So
fuck it, 4 minutes.
No, 3 hours is 4:14, and that is absolutely not on the cards. But 4:45 feels achievable now, whereas before 5 minutes 40 felt like a stretch.
Yeah, and you and I can relate to that a lot, because if you remember a number of weeks ago, it was whenever I did that run that was with Luke and the other, what's that group that Nick's a part of? What's that running group you're a part of? Delta. When I did that run with them, it was, I remember it was like 26 kilometers total, 23 or something was at marathon pace, but I ended up just doing the entire thing at like, I don't know, like 4:40 or 4, but like the fast section I did at like 4:20 pace or something. And I was like, it was at that stage I realized maybe I should be adjusting the goal to do 4:45. But hey, I think where I'll go into that a bit more is the discussion we'll have in a few weeks' time in reference to the actual race strategy. Because at that stage I'll reevaluate what goal I want to aim for.
Well, I think that leads pretty nicely into the topic of the week, because if I'm not mistaken, next weekend's race is going to give us a pretty good idea of what our marathon pace is going to be.
Absolutely. So, Nick, start us off. Mid-race block. What's its importance?
Basically, before we talk about why you want to do a race in the middle of your training block, you want to understand what is a race. So, for example, if you're racing a 10K, you probably don't need one of these. If you're racing a half marathon as your goal race at the end of a training block, you might want to race a 10K. If you're racing a marathon, you would want to look at finding a half marathon about 5 to, I'd say ideally 5 to 6 weeks out, and then you wouldn't look at something further than 8 weeks out from your actual race, or closer than 4 weeks, because the race during that block you want to be running at your half marathon pace, So there will be fatigue that you're carrying over into that next week after the race. And if you do that too close to the marathon, you might set yourself up for injury, inconsistent training before your taper. And at the end of the day, the race during the block is not your goal race. It's more of an indicator, and I'm going to explain the importance of that now. So I like to break it down into 3 components. The first one we've kind of touched on, the first being the physical aspect of it.
Yeah, it's much better.
So a bit of microphone difficulties. We're back into it. So we're talking about the 3 reasons why you want to have a race mid-block. So hopefully we got that stuff at the start there. I'm going to start again from the 3 aspects, starting with the physical component. And the physical component is a marathon should be within 5 to 10 minutes of your half marathon time doubled. So for example, if you run a 90-minute half marathon, double that, that's 3 hours, which means your marathon time should be around 3 hours, 10 minutes. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's make it a bit easier. Let's say you want to run a 3-hour marathon going backwards. This is reverse engineering. If you want to run a 3-hour marathon, halve that is 90 minutes. Now, the 5 to 10 minute, I push more on the 10-minute side. So if 90 minutes is that half marathon cut in half, 10 minutes off that is around 80 minutes. So to run a 3-hour marathon, and this is not a hard and fast rule, pun intended, you want to be running around that 83 minute for a half marathon. Anyway, the physical component is you've done all these sessions at marathon pace. Now you want to test your half marathon time to see where you are physically, because if you use that formula and work out your half marathon time, you get to a half marathon mid-block and you run those times, you can say to yourself, I'm in the physical shape to run your goal marathon. So that's the physical component. It kind of plays into the next thing, which is the mental aspect. Is when you set yourself a goal at the start of the block, sometimes at the start of the block, you say to yourself, how am I going to run 4 minutes per kilometer, 5 minutes per kilometer, whatever your goal is, in 16, 18, 12 weeks time on race day for the marathon. And each week there's sessions, every couple of weeks there's there are a couple runs where they're indicators that boost your confidence and give you a nice mental edge that you know you're heading in the right direction because you're improving pace-wise, you're improving heart rate decreases as well over those times. So the half marathon race mid-block is a nice little key indicator that is timed and then gives you that mental clarity that you're on track. And it's also a good time if you're 4 to 6 weeks out to make any changes to your programming. So there's the mental aspect as well. The other and last component is the routine. You want to treat that race exactly like it was your marathon race. So, and when does that start? That starts 3 days before the race with the hydration, because it takes about 3 days to properly hydrate yourself. Then the carb loading starts, as we discussed in our previous episode, 48 to 24 hours pre-race. And then that 24-hour window prior to race start, you want to be doing everything from carb loading, so the nutrition side of things, the hydration side of things, and also the shakeout runs, and I guess preparing the body in terms of what routine you do the day before, what runs you do the day before to prepare yourself in all those other two areas. So the routine aspect, because you don't want to come on race day and realize that I don't know what I'm doing here. I haven't done this before. What's the saying? You prepare to plan. Failure to plan is a failure.
Yeah.
Genius. Bars. Anyway, jump in.
I was gonna say for pace wise, just remembered if your half marathon pace, if you want to be roughly 10 minutes faster, it's 30 seconds per K faster than your goal marathon pace. Approximately.
Well, not necessarily, because it depends. It depends what pace you're going at. Because for me, my goal marathon pace is 4:05, and that's what I mean. Like, you can put it into a calculator and work. Like, there's calculators out there where you go race conversion calculators, and you can put in your 10-kilometer time, and it does that. But 30 seconds, because for me, my 4:05 marathon pace, my half marathon pace is like 3:45, for example. Is that 15? No, that's what, 5? Oh, it's, 25 seconds.
I mean, 30. I was going to say 30 seconds per kilometer slower than half marathon over, slower than your marathon pace over 20 Ks saves 10 minutes in total.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Is that what you're working it out?
Yeah. That's what I meant. Like, it's about 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds per kilometer faster if you want to save 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. In that case, Sean's correct.
I'm going to open up, I guess, an open discussion here around what paces each of us are looking to do for the half marathon. I have a rough guide. I know at a minimum I want to do it at 4:30 pace, because hell, if I did the 10K at 4:30 of no training, I'm almost certain I can do this race, the 21 or whatever it is, at 4:30. But there's a part of me that almost wants to push for faster than that. So with that being said, how would you recommend, Nick, that we work out what each of us individually want to do for the half marathon, working out our pace?
Well, as I said before, you want to work out what your goal marathon pace is, divide that by 2, and then work out that 5 to 10 minute window. Work out that 5 to 10 minute window, and then work out the pace equivalent for that. And I think, Sean, as you just said, it's about 30 seconds.
Yeah. So, like, if your goal is 4:45 pace for the marathon, then the half will want to be doing like 4:15-ish, which I think is not, I don't know if after the 5K at 3:54 pace, maybe 4:15, 4:20 is on the cards for the half marathon, but I'm not sure. We'll find out on race day.
Oh, that's it. I think we're about to get into this, but what I want to touch on is race strategy. Reason being is because when I did my 10K as an example, there was zero race strategy. It was, let's rock up and just, kind of be on that limit of feeling like I'm about to puke / pass out, and I finish whenever I finish.
Oh, I know what I was going to say.
Well, we can get to that in a sec. I'll finish my point.
So let me just butt in here.
So the race strategy that I'm kind of hoping to work with or understand is, well, I think it's 21 kilometers with some random decimal points in there.
21.
Oh my God, this guy. So would that mean that let's say if we go as an average, we want to run, I don't know, 4:30 for the entire thing. Is there a point in time at the start where we run slower to kind of get a bit of a warm up or a rhythm? Because if there's one thing I've learned from racing, the most common thing, if you don't have a strict race strategy, is you'll go out and you'll run your fastest Ks in the first 1 to 2 kilometers.
One thing I was going to say is the marathon is a different heart rate zone to a half marathon. Like, for example, how do I put this? Like a half marathon, you'll kind of be sitting at 5 to 10 BPMs. That's a rough guide above what you want to for the marathon. I reckon you're more on the edge in a half marathon than you are in a marathon. If you're hitting that edge in the marathon, you've obviously just run too fast. Your pace is way off and you're running too fast. Whereas half marathon, you kind of want to be tipping over that edge for the entire thing, like dipping, staying just below it. And what I mean by edge is that lactate threshold pace. And for anyone who don't know, Will's going to put up a graph now, but there's a little point where if you start sitting above that for too long, then your body can't remove all the toxins, waste, blah, 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 all science nitty gritties type stuff, and actually give yourself, fuel your body with the correct stuff, because it doesn't have it readily available and it doesn't have enough time to break it down, blah, blah, blah. Science stuff. Anyway, what I'm saying is with that, you want to pace that with that in mind. So you don't want to be going out too fast, as Will said. You'll find that, like anything, you're the one, your brain and you are moving your legs. You are the person with your watch on and is looking at their watch. So you know what pace you need to run at. Just run the pace. It's not that hard. We're not asking you to do anything crazy. But how you want to break an actual half marathon down is, I call it like it's anything. I always like to break down races into 3 stages. So for example, a half marathon, I like to break down into 7 kilometers, because there's 21 kilometers, 7 Ks each. This is how I've done it. First 7 Ks, obviously you just want to start out, find yourself a rhythm, find a group around you. You kind of want the first 7 Ks to go over pretty quick. The middle 7 Ks are always the most difficult, because you're kind of, as I said, you're pushing that edge. You're not on the home stretch yet, so you don't know what's on the horizon, and you don't know how fast you're going. And then the last 7K, you want to be pushing that limit. So you kind of want to be conserving yourself in the middle 7, zoning out, working with that group around you. And then the final 7, start to push. You always want a negative split. And a half marathon, you don't need to be negative splitting too much, because at the end of the day, it's a lot easier to run even pace than to, I guess, run faster on that back end. But for all you amateur runners, it shouldn't be something where you bust your balls in the first 7. It should take your time to build into it and work as a team. I think I posted something on my Instagram where I was like, running groups is really beneficial because the perceived exertion effort is less. So find a group, find people around you that are running the same pace and work with them. There's no point sitting in front of the group, sitting in front of the pacing group, just because. It's better to sit behind them, and when you feel confident in that last 7, then to start to push.
Yeah, and I can talk from my own running experience, both from track and all that. It's always a lot more satisfying to pick people off at the end because you've conserved, rather than go out hard and then have like you be the one being picked off. And
most of the time, the people that have gone out too hard and done the wrong thing are the ones that you're picking off anyway at the end. So it's one of those things. Are you racing them, or are you racing the goal time you set out to do?
Sounds good.
Does Gold Coast have, does the half marathon
they'll have pacemakers.
paces?
Yeah, they'll have a couple of pacemakers. They'll probably have it for 90 minutes, 2 hours.
Easy.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything else? Otherwise, I'll give a quick summary. So we just discussed why you should be doing a mid-race block, and that's for the 3 reasons. Mental aspect of preparing yourself mentally of what a race is going to feel like. 2, the physical aspect and adaptations you'll get from racing a hard half in a marathon block. And lastly, the routine. You should replicate the same routine as you would on the marathon race day and in the lead up. Now, how to run a half marathon, as we said, 3 stages. The first 7Ks, the middle 7Ks, and the final 7Ks. Find your rhythm, zone out, and push. If you want a little, put that on your wrist in Sharpie, just to remind yourself. Anyway, tip of the week. Something that's affecting a whole bunch of us, but using Vaseline is a cheap and effective way to lube up your and insert in. No, I'm kidding.
God. Anyway,
the Vaseline is good for your nipple chafing, any area that can get chafing, armpits. Main one for runners can be around the groin area. Nipples is a big one. For me, I'm telling you now, it's not a nice feeling, nipple chafing. So a nice bunch of Vaseline around there will do you good.
What are you doing? I don't know. I've had hot flashes all shifted. My nipples are killing me.
Why are we talking about your nipples?
We're not. Just go do what you're doing here.
Guys.
I was going to say, if you want to see what can happen if you don't use Vaseline, just check out Davis Clark on Instagram and look at his Boston Marathon Instagram reel, and you'll see what can happen.
Yeah, I wonder what that, I reckon, because it was all blood. I reckon. Anyway, they will delete this, but I think that was not. It was a mixture.
Yeah, but a part of that tip of the week, I remember hearing this years and years ago when people were talking about with the running shirts or running singlets that men have to wear, is that it can chafe on your nipples. And so because of that, I've already decided for myself that I'm just going to put physio tape over my nipples. But
yeah, you can put physio tape. I'm going to trial Vaseline only because in your photos you don't want to have tape, and it's all about aesthetics when you're running marathons these days. So I think from an aesthetic point of view, if you put Vaseline, you kind of still get the benefits rather than having Band-Aids across your nipples. And you don't want that in your photos because you don't really want to post that on Instagram. That's just my preference, but yeah, you do you.
Make sure at the warm-up you get all your bros to put Vaseline on your nipples.
It's a good bonding experience.
Oh, too good.
Classy. Anyway,
Thank you
We'll close
for
this
listening.
one out. A nice short and quickie because we've got some massive episodes. We're on the Gold Coast next week. So why we're going through this episode now is because next week we're all racing the Gold Coast Running Festival Half Marathon. It's going to be a good day. We're doing some episodes while we're up there. We're going to do an in-person one with all of us. We're also speaking to Cameron's physio as well. Will's doing a physio, another episode tonight with his mate, who's an exercise physiologist, on a similar topic. So we're going to get perspectives from, I guess, different sides of the coin. These are actually happening. So yes, I know it's a long time coming. And yeah, thanks for listening. Share this with someone who would like to know, who doesn't know how to run a half marathon. Share this with someone who always goes out too hard in their races and bonks at the end of the race and doesn't run their goal time, because they need to hear this. They need this drilled into their head. All our socials will be down in the description of whatever platform you're watching this on. Anyway, subscribe, rate, review, and have a good weekend.